Hello, I'd like to tell you a parable. There once was a man that was called on to visit his family across the ocean. And being a man of modest means, he booked the cheapest cabin he could. And on the day of the sailing, he went and bought food because he realized that being in the cheapest cabin, he would have to eat his own meals. And so he got whatever he thought would keep for the duration of the voyage, and budgeted his meals carefully so that he would have enough till the end, and went about the cruise. Generally, he spent his time in the cabin, but he found that he loved going up on deck and feeling the sea air and the sights and the sounds and the smell. And one day he walked by the dining room and he looked in and he saw all of the people. It seemed like the whole ship, but he realized it couldn't be, and he saw them all enjoying what seemed to be fabulous food, wonderful conversation, that some of them were even eating 2 or 3 desserts. He couldn't believe his eyes, and he was a little jealous. And he found himself for the rest of the cruise not going by the dining hall at mealtime because it made him sad that he was consigned to eating his modest food that he had. But he realized that's how things worked, and he satisfied himself with that. Finally, the day came that he had anticipated being the end of the cruise, and he went up on deck to see the approaching land and didn't see any approaching land. And he inquired of one of the crew members what the situation was. Why was it that he wasn't seeing any land? And the crew member said, well, there was bad weather at that port and they were going to have to wait an extra day at sea. Well, he realized he had budgeted his meal so carefully that he had finished the last of his own food, and with a heavy heart he inquired of the crew member how he might purchase some extra meals. The crew member thought for a minute and asked that he follow him. And so he did, and they walked and they came to the dining hall. It just happened to be dinner time, and the crew member went up and spoke to the head steward for a minute or two, and the head steward motioned with his hand and asked for a server to come, and he said, if you'd follow this man, it'll all be taken care of. The man was confused because he realized he hadn't purchased anything yet, and he went up to the steward and he said, no, I'm a little embarrassed, but I didn't purchase any meals, and I want to know where I can go to buy them. And the man said, the price of the meals were included in your ticket. We've had a seat for you the whole time, the whole cruise, and as a matter of fact, we'd wondered where you were, and we're glad that you're here now. And if you'll follow the server, he'll take you to your seat. The man followed and sat down, and sure enough, the food was every bit as good as he had imagined it would be. The conversation was every bit as sparkling. The desserts were to die for. And he found himself wishing that the bad weather would persist at the port, but it didn't. And as he left that ship, he took one last look at what he thought of now as his seat at the table, even though it hadn't been. But he resolved ever since then to inquire if he couldn't have a seat at the table, and never to assume that it wasn't his to occupy.